Okay. Happy New Year. Happy resilient New Year to everybody. We're going to need it to get through the thick and thin of 2025. So, welcome to another episode in the new year of 2025. Welcome to the Shaker Heights. Experiences may vary. So, we have this incredible, accomplished woman coming up to the stage, and she got all these, she got the entire alphabet after her name, and you got to put some respect on her name. Okay, and so without further ado, because I even wore my Sunday best right now. See, I'd like to bring to the stage Miss Adriana Glenn.
You get our public enemy intro.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, Miss Glenn. How are
Thank you for
today?
having me.
Thank you for coming on in such short notice. And thank you for being, one of our consistent supporters, listening and commenting and stuff like that. So we appreciate that.
Enjoy the show.
And purchasing the hat, that was nice.
Yes, I wore it on my cruise, and people wanted to know all about that hat. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
It's one of a kind.
And
my kid actually tried to steal it from me. I'm like, it doesn't mean anything to you. Those are my elementary schools on there. Like, no.
Yeah, my daughter has my Shaker Heights shirt, a generic ones they sell online. I never got it back, so it's hers.
Oh, man. Well, here we are on a Sunday. Some places it's snowing. Other places it's not.
I'm in the DMV, and it's going to snow soon.
That's what I heard. I got to get everything done.
Well, actually, by 11 o'clock tonight, it's going to start.
Okay. So I have to wait till tomorrow, maybe. But anyway, let's stop talking about the weather, and it's about Miss Adriana Drake Glenn. So tell us, where did it all start for you at Shaker? As a little one, your kinfolk and everybody.
As a little one. Yeah. So my dad was a Cleveland public school teacher in high schools. So he knew what he wanted for his kids. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So they also wanted the American dream. So I believe just briefly lived in a duplex on 151st and Kinsman. But so by 1966, though, when I was born, we moved into our house on Rolliston Road. Rolliston is one of your shorter streets, so it's in between Scottsdale and Lomond, and I never really realized how short the street was. My parents wanted me to have my own little yard, and when they purchased their home, there weren't that many Black people on the street, and there weren't that many kids initially. So my mom kind of felt bad. So she was really good friends. Both my parents were good friends. We spent many summers with the Newberries. Amy Newberry was one of my closest friends. And then her brothers, Ronald and Robert, and then Wendy came along a little bit later. And then my parents were also friends with the Matthews, who lived on Lindholm, Angie Matthews and her sister Alicia, and they lived next door to Luther. So anyway, my parents were, my dad being an educator, he just pretty much knew, like I said, what he wanted for us to, the experiences he wanted us to have. And my mom, I admire her because even though she was stay at home when I was growing up, and that was important back then, right? Because everybody went home for lunch.
Right.
Which is so, when I tell people that, they think it's so weird. I'm like, yes, we all went home for lunch. And then I remember there were maybe a couple people that had single parent families, or a parent might work, and then they had to make arrangements with the moms that were home for lunch, and then everybody went back to school. And it wasn't until I think it was around the 4th grade when Lomond extended this, if you want your kids to eat lunch at school, they can bring their lunch, because we didn't have a cafeteria. And my mom just jumped all over that because she was going to Tri-C. So she was going she was going down when we were in school and coming back, because it was very important to my father that we not be with any other people, because he wanted that whole Leave It to Beaver kind of family thing going on. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's possible because Leave It to Beaver, Ward was from Shaker Heights in the show. A little trivia
That's
for you.
right. That's right.
Oh.
I do remember that. And so anyway, eventually there were a lot more kids on the street. I remember the first kid that moved on the street. And I remember I came home, I was so excited. I said, "Mommy, I have a boyfriend." It was Stephen Harris.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He was like, and so I was really close with him, and he was a gifted in art, and I actually was interested in art, but I'm also practical. I've always wanted to be. I always
Good choice. Yeah, yeah, good.
I always wanted to be a nurse, but I really like in my next life, I want to be like, in cartooning and things like that. But
You can do both right now.
yes, I could. Well, when things kind of slow down, but you guys remember that show, Julia?
Yeah.
Diane Carroll.
Yeah.
Carol, yeah.
I wanted to be her. I didn't want Corey, but I wanted to be Julia. I wanted to look like her. I wanted the hat. I wanted everything. And so, yeah. So
when you were at
wait a
minute,
apartment.
a little sidetrack. When did nurses stop wearing hats? I know I had a nurse girlfriend that had one at Metro.
About the 1980s.
80s.
Yeah, the 19. Yeah.
And what was the decision on that? Do you know, or do you remember?
It was just like, why do we have to wear a hat? Doctors don't wear a hat. Like it was, I mean, it was, yeah. It was just kind of pointless in the end. I went to Boston University for undergrad. I was one of the last, I was in the last class to graduate before they closed the school in 1988. Okay. And we fought hard to be able to wear pants and not wear those stupid hats.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, there wound up being a lot of kids on Rolliston toward the end, and a lot of principals. Like I had to write this down because I didn't want to forget any of the families. So I'm going to start from the Lomond end. And we lived near Scottsdale, so we had Bruce Red, and we had the Warrens, Kristen and Carlin, and their dad was a principal. And then we had Lori Bloodsaw. She was a little older, so I don't know her as well, but Lori Bloodsaw. And then the Bibbs, Debbie and Dennis. And then eventually Shelley Brown moved into their house when they moved. I don't remember where they moved in Shaker, but they moved. Many people moved to, larger homes. Then we had the Meltons, Leonardo and Lorenzo. They have different names. At least one of them has a different name now. And their dad was a principal. And then Dolores Graves, she's a principal. I don't know if she had kids, but she lived on our street. Okay. And then the Mitchells, Dana and Pam, and then they had a little brother. I forgot the little brother's name because he came along a little later. Their dad was a principal.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie Siegel and her brother Aaron, and then Heather Goldman lived on my street. Wow. Michelle Thomas, Courtney Perry. The Terrys, they were a big family. They moved in, I think it was like the third grade. It was Janice was our age. He was in our class. And then she had brothers, John, Joe, William. I always thought William was cute. And a sister, Linda. And then we had the Ishams. Their dad was a principal. I don't remember their name, though. They moved a little later. We had the Saunders, Darren Saunders. He used to call him Poopy. Poopy Saunders. I don't know why. Poopy, that was his nickname. But yeah.
Were these all principals in Cleveland area schools, or were
they were all in Cleveland Public.
It's the gateway.
One of them, one. I think I don't know if it was the Warrens' dad was East Cleveland, but yeah, they were not in Shaker. They were generally Cleveland Public Schools or East Cleveland. And then we had the Blazers, Eric and Emily, and then George Seals. He was an only child. He was older. And then across from him was a guy that was named Mark, who was killed in a hit and run on a motorcycle. And I heard rumors of who had done it, but nothing ever came of that person. But I named those two because I had an older half brother who was 7 years older, and he would spend summers with us, and he was friends with those two guys. And then there was like Lori Garvin, and the Mortons lived on Scottsdale, not too far from me. Eddie and Junie. And then, I forgot Chris Underwood. He lived on the Lomond end. So there were a lot of people, and all those principals were living on Rolliston.
Wow. That's a Shaker trivia question.
Yeah. Yes. There were. So that
that's pretty much the black story of Shaker.
Yeah.
Usually they got in and their parents were in education, and they wanted to get them close into the school district so that they didn't have to go to the schools where they taught.
Yeah.
at that
Oh,
time.
Miss Bledsoe taught it more. I see Billy's typing, and yes, I did. Miss Bledsoe, I knew she was a teacher, but I didn't know where she was at. So yeah, it was it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah. So my mom was super active in the PTA. She was PTA president at Lomond Elementary, and she worked closely with Susan Warshay's mom and Stephanie Siegel's mom, and Wendy Harrington. I don't know if you guys remember Wendy.
I remember
Harrington.
Wendy.
She was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her mom as well. And then my mom also did some volunteer work with the Shaker Housing Authority with Harriet Hawkins' mom and Tracy Mern's mom, where she would pose as a potential home buyer, being Black, and they were still steering us to Ludlow, Moreland, and Lomond areas of the district, even at that time in the early 70s. Yeah. So she did some work with that. Oh, and I forgot the Postles. The Postles lived on, Angela Postle and Peggy Postle, they lived on Rolliston. So we had a lot of kids in the end.
I'm trying to remember Rolliston. Was that towards Lee Road, or was that after Avalon? Because
it was like Lee Road, Lindholm, and then Rolliston.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
I was trying to figure out why it was the shortest, because it didn't go on both sides of Lomond. Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, Lindholm and Rolliston did not go on both sides.
Okay, now I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always hated Rolliston was the last boundary for Lomond. So I had to walk like forever, and I hated. I was always jealous. Everybody like lived on Ingleside or Gridley, and I remember my parents, because remember Scottsdale just was a through street. Like they didn't have those barricades up, and so my parents always said they didn't want me to walk home the Scottsdale way. They always wanted me to walk home the Lomond way, but Lomond just seemed, with the windy streets, it just seemed longer, and we were at the top of the block. And one time I didn't listen and got in like really big trouble because I lost my brother. Yeah, he didn't follow me like he was supposed to, and he didn't pay attention, and I took the Scottsdale way, and I had to tell my parents when I turn around and I don't see my brother behind me that like they were like, well, where did you last see him? And I was like, I went home on the Scottsdale way. Oh my God, I got my butt beat. He got his butt beat for not listening. I got my butt beat for not paying attention to my parents. So
did you have a switch bush outside the house? Was it switching?
My dad had the belt.
Oh yeah.
He didn't play. And then in Cleveland Public Schools, they still were using corporal punishment. So he had a paddle that had holes drilled in it, so there would be no wind resistance. And like grown men would be crying, like 18-year-old men would be crying because they knew my dad was just ready to whip,
Yeah.
It's crazy the things that were allowed. We lived in the Hable area, and my sister, we had this German Shepherd that came to Lomond with us when we moved in 69, 70. I don't remember. But the dogs used to roam the neighborhood back in Cleveland. And that's before, and I remember you didn't have to pick up the dog crap or anything, and you used to smoke in enclosed public areas. And we're all latchkey kids. Were you a latchkey kid?
No, it was. Well, I should take that. Like by the time I got like 5th grade, like my mom was, she was like, you're gonna have to.
My sister and I were laughing because I used to cut holes in the screen so that I could get my fingers over and open it up and break into my house, because I'd always lose the key.
Oh, you know how I broke in my house? I was skinny enough to fit through the milk chute.
My sister did,
milk chute, and I would just slide in through the milk chute.
What? Wow.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. Yeah, we had the milk chute as well. My sister went through that, and the neighbor would use her to break into her house when she got her key. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And did you guys have either of you? Did you have a incinerator? Those are things.
Yes.
And I forgot when they banned it, but to me it was like a scary monster, because I just remember just seeing the orange like
hell in your basement. Yeah.
Yes. So, and I thought it was weird too, because we had the clothing chute that my brother and I used to always throw
Mhm.
stuff
Yeah.
down the clothing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was very close to the incinerator.
Yeah. Exactly.
They shared like that pillar almost.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird. It was
Yeah.
weird, and I
And
can't
my
remember when they stopped doing. We stopped doing that.
and my dad used to yell at us because we were bad with laundry, and the laundry would come down and it would come really close to the water heater where the flame was. So, man, those are
Yeah.
the days.
Yeah, I remember, man, that's such a strong memory because I remember I think about it, like my dad would burn like documents in the incinerator.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
never, yeah, but yeah,
It
and then
was
rake the
great.
coals. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those houses were built in the 40s, I think.
Yes, they were
That's
built in
what I
the
remember.
40s. I think my parents purchased, the people were I think they were the second owner. They were like from like one of those Eastern Bloc nations, and
Hmm.
they were unmarried, and I think the guy's mother had died in the house, but we never knew where she died.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
But those were some very well made houses. Like my parents never replaced the roof on the house. They were there
Well,
18
Wow.
years.
you know how much it would cost? Our roof was slate. The
Yes, we
roof
had a
was
slate roof.
that's an $80,000 roof. It was 20 years ago. No telling what it would be
Oh
now.
my
Wow.
It's
God.
probably the worth of what the house was worth back then. I remember when my
Oh
mom
my
was
God.
selling it.
Yeah, my parents bought their house for $23,500.
Wow.
That was a
Man.
lot of money back. A lot of money back then. Um, yeah, and then some other. Do you guys remember? Did you ever go to Safety Town?
Yeah, I graduated from Safety Town.
I
I've
So
got
did
never,
I.
pictures.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Safety Town, and
That was the parking lot right behind
yes,
Nichols Sporting Goods,
yes.
or adjacent, right across from the Rapid Station, and you could see DeVita's or whatever that buy right or
Yeah,
the
DeVita's.
bank. Yeah, DeVita's. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Safety Town. And then I did the day camp at Lomond every year. I think my mother was
Yeah,
trying to get rid of me and my
I
brother.
was there too, but we didn't run into. What did they do with the girls? Were the boys and girls separate? I don't remember girls at all.
I think we were separate.
Yeah, we must have been.
Yes,
Yeah,
because we did a lot of, crafts. We were making lanyards and
because I didn't see you in
I remember
dodgeball
those
because that would have been.
lanyards, those plastic strips, different colors.
yes, I
Yeah.
loved the lanyards. And then I used to deliver the Sun Press and the Cleveland.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I had all
What?
of Rolliston and parts of Lomond and Scottsdale. And actually, I had both the route. I had both the papers at the same time. And my mom was like, "Look, you cannot work these two jobs. You have to give up one of them. And I prefer you give up the Sun Press because that was the morning one."
Hmm.
And she had to get up early in the morning to follow me to make sure that nobody did anything. But so I kept the Cleveland.
Wow. I had never ran into any paper girls. I remember a lot of paper
It's a
boys.
rarity. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked money, and I would go to the Scotty's Five and Dime and just wait for
Yeah.
candy. I
Yeah.
Right by
just
the
so I
bowling alley. Yeah, that was great. That was a great
so my
candy store.
my dad would give me a bi-weekly allowance based on when he got paid, and then it just was never enough, so I was always like trying to find some other way to make money so I could buy more candy.
You needed things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
What was your allowance? Let me see if I was getting cheated. I had to do the
It
bathrooms on
was
the weekends. I got
it was
$3.
I got you're better. I got $2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I got. I did get an allowance for like taking out the trash, doing the dishes, mowing the lawn. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how much I got. But yeah, I mean that's great though. You know what I mean? That was like, the entrepreneurial spirit started early for any of us with
Well,
that stuff.
yeah, and I was
Yeah.
always kind of like a little quirky. I like a lot of people. I can't say that as I grew up I was like with any particular group of people. I just was friendly with a lot of different
Mhm.
Hmm.
people. Um and yeah, and I was very shy. Like even now when I'm pretty chatty, but I actually had just posted on my Facebook page like I'm an introvert. Like I don't get my energy from people. I like to be
Mhm.
alone with my thoughts. And a lot of people
Hmm.
think I'm extroverted, but I'm not. But growing up, I just remember my mom coming back from the parent teacher conferences and she was like, the teachers say you're doing really well, blah, blah, blah. You know, back then you could figure out if you were in the highest reading group or whatever based upon your SRA card, right? Like,
oh yeah.
So she always knew I was in the highest groups, but she just, I was very quiet. And she said, you need to speak up. Your teachers want to hear what you have to say. But even now, like, I don't talk if I'm in meetings unless I'm passionate about something, because some people just like to hear themselves talk. That's not me.
Right.
So what's your personality type? I was just going through that because during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of soul searching. I was an ENJTF or Ian.
Oh my God, I've done it. I forgot.
ENTF, something like that. And I used to be really an introvert, but then I changed when I got older because it wasn't doing anything.
I mean, because you have to. Like, I mean, I remember when I wanted to be a nurse, and I remember the first time going in a patient's room, and I had my little clipboard, and I had my head down. Hi, my name's Adriana. I'm going to be your nurse today. And that nurse instructor literally grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out of the room, and she says, "What kind of nurse are you going to be?" Like, nursing instructors back then were very mean. And so I had to get it together really quickly. So then I just kind of was able to kind of turn it around. But yeah.
So what were you like in high school, or where did you go to Byron?
I went to Byron, and that was really cool because so Kelly Clemens used to live on Lomond, and then she moved over to Mercer, and then we used to remember going to Thornton Park skating on, I think it was Friday nights or Saturday nights or something, and then she kind of introduced us to all those Mercer people, so like Joy and Pam Armour, and so by the time I got to Byron, you know, people were kind of moving from other places. That's where I became really good friends with Sharon Smith and Retanya Myers. This was also the issue. So, you know, in elementary school, if everything's all cool, you're still all in the same class with all your friends. And then you start going to junior high and you start splitting out based upon levels. So, you know, when your parents have aspirations for you more than yourself, you start getting, you know, you're in your honors classes and things like that. So in those classes, there were less Black people or less people of color. I'm just gonna say Black and white because growing up, we just didn't have a lot of other people at that time. So I kind of just kept to myself. I wore really thick glasses, so people didn't think I was very cute, and I was very thin, and I was quiet. So it's just not a good combination for it. You know, I didn't.
You were blurred.
Yeah,
back before
and I used to walk around with like a medical encyclopedia because I was always reading. I wanted to be a nurse, so I was like kind of this nerdy kind of person.
Yeah. So
I was kind of kept to myself, and then by high school, it just got worse because then you're in your AP classes, and you know.
Wait a minute, now you're in your AP classes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm busy trying to prove to my parents that I'm not smart enough to be in these classes. So it was it was a tug back and forth with my parents constantly because they, you know, people were calling me like an Oreo, and I that was very hurtful.
Oh yeah.
I'm very proud of being a Black woman, so that I didn't. I had some challenges with that.
Were you making the honor roll and all that stuff? I remember that was
because I was busy trying to prove. I was busy trying to prove that I didn't belong in those classes, and I remember at some point my parents kind of got like aggravated, and they said, "Okay, fine, you can just get out of all of those classes." I was like, "Yes," and Mrs. Birdsong. Do you remember Mrs. Birdsong? She was my English teacher.
A black teacher, right?
Female? Yes.
Yeah.
I went to get signed out of her class. I was in honors English, and I wanted to get out of her class. And she said I had like a D average in the class. She said she was not going to sign me out of the class because it wasn't trying. And I was like, but my parents said I can get out of the class. And she was like, not signing you out. So I had to turn it around really quickly.
They could do that? They could keep you from leaving?
I don't know if she had a conversation with my parents. I don't know, but yes, I didn't. I
think that it was collusion. They colluded.
It was
against
collusion,
you.
Probably. And then my dad. I remember one time I wanted to take project physics, and the more challenging physics was PSCS physics. And so I had my dad convinced that project physics was the physics I needed to take because I was not good at math. I was good at writing. I could do it. And he talked to Lori Pash's dad. His name was Marv Pash. And he said, "Oh, no, that's not the physics that you want your daughter to." Oh, Mrs. Fox did the same thing to Billy. So like, yes, they teachers had more
They were invested
abilities
more.
they were more invested and they could do things. I mean, now it's I talk to my friends who are teachers and it's rough to
Well, they weren't grading to tests anymore. I mean, they weren't great. I mean, later on, the state test became such a huge thing, and it would cost them their jobs if they didn't.
Yes,
bring
that's
them.
true. Yes. And then, of course, and also in high school, I was dating Jerry Franklin. He had older sisters, Rosalind Franklin, Jennifer Franklin, and Lori.
Was
Franklin.
he older than you? I
Yes,
don't
he was
remember
in the
that
class.
name.
He was in the class of '82, and so
Ooh,
yeah,
whoa.
and we dated all through high school and college.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes, so I kind of like withdrew, and I was working. By the time I was in the senior year, I only went to school like in the morning, and then I worked as the waitress at Swenson's. You guys remember Swenson's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I worked up there from 12 to 5. I had the 12 to 5 shift, and then I worked on the weekends.
They reopened Swenson's. It had they've got a new version of it in and around Cleveland. I guess they're competing with Mitchell's ice cream. I noticed that.
That was expensive ice cream back then, because you think about how much Baskin Robbins ice cream cost. It was like 50 cents for a scoop, and I think it was like $1.25 to get.
Remember Bruce Red used to work there. We used to call him Brucey. He worked at
Baskin Robbins.
Baskin Robbins. Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah,
because he had the hat sitting on top. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we had some nerdy black kids in the Lomond area. I mean,
yes, we did.
Very astute, nerdy. Like Dana Mitchell. Mike Chapman was a pseudo nerd because he was hip hop.
Yes, and you know what? So I was kind of tomboyish, and I always liked. They had the Hot Wheels cars. Quentin, Chris, Mike Chapman. They had the bomb Hot Wheels cars. So I would steal my brother's Hot Wheels cars because we were very gender rigid back then, right? So I had the Easy Bake Oven and the dolls, and my brother had the Hot Wheels. I mean what is the big wheel thing and the cool stuff. So I would take his cars and I would like be playing with them at school. So yeah.
Here's some
Butch Byers, yes.
Here, do you remember the bicycle parade where people would take the crepe paper and put it through their spokes and we'd ride around the neighborhood? I remember visually seeing it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I remember we would ride to Lomond School and there's
do you remember riding to Lomond School to find out who your teachers were? Like you get on your bike and you ride and you're looking at the window. And I remember in the second grade, I had Mrs. Freed, and she was like she was so mean. She was like, and we had the same glasses, which was like, oh God, I'm already nerdy. And I had the same glasses as this old white lady that's mean. Oh my word.
I was in Montessori school, but I remember a name, Mrs. Yamaguchi. I used to hear.
That was my sixth grade teacher. I loved her. Yeah, that was my sixth grade teacher.
Yeah, and there are carnivals and all kinds of stuff going on when we were younger. There was a carnival over Chagrin and Lee. They would block off all of that, and they had amusement park rides. And man, I think that all stopped in the 80s.
I think a lot of stuff. I remember Rolliston. We had block parties every year. Mm-hmm. Trying to think what else. Yeah, a lot of stuff just kind of stopped. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I remember, like it was starting to get kind of like weird because like even if you were going to like a school dance, you had people from other schools that were coming, and some kind of way people always thought that the Shaker girls were like so hot to trot, like guys.
They were high post. Bougie, high post.
Yeah. So you would get these. It was just
Luther's out there. Yeah, I do have a crazy memory because I didn't talk to anybody. I just observed. So everything's etched. I remember all the things I didn't participate in. So
I have a crazy memory. So this was back in elementary school. Somebody thought it was a good idea to that we should smoke. Right. So So
who was it? Come on.
I don't remember, but I can tell you it was a bunch of girls because the boys are the ones that told on us. So we we go to that. So Lomond has this big, vast back. They had an ice skating rink back there, and then the hill people would sled on. So we go, and I'm like just tagging along. Like I wasn't trying to do anything. So I'm walking, and I don't remember who had the cigarettes, or even if they were cigarettes. They might have been something else. But in any event, Butch and Chris and Quinn, they told on us. And so then when we get back, I just remember Mr. Riley. He was just like this.
Oh, Mr. Riley. I remember that name. Mr. Riley. He sort of had the cachet of Mr. Mallon, if I were to compare them, from what I heard.
He was kind of just, he had back.
Mr. Riley.
He was just kind of like, I don't know. But I just remember him. We scattered. We're like running up the stairs, and I never saw that man move so fast. He's just grabbing collars of kids, like bring out, And then I had to take this note home to my parents, and I just knew my ass was going to get beat. And I didn't even get in. I mean, I got in trouble, but I didn't get my parents were unpredictable with their discipline. Sometimes I would think I was going to get like the discipline, and then the other times it was
psyops.
Yeah. And actually I didn't get the discipline like my brothers did. My brothers were, my dad.
Did you hang out at Lomond Playground after school? I just remember how active that was. Just kids everywhere on the baseball diamonds and kickball and tetherball and strikeout against the wall, and they were jumping the stairs at the front of the school trying to be Evel Knievel. Just crazy stuff everywhere.
They had it was these cement, they were next to the stairs. It was like the cement, I don't know, but now there's railings there, so you can't slide down.
And they don't seem as steep. I think they changed the steepness of the stairs.
Well, and the school just seems so big when you're little. And even when we did the high school tour, I thought, the school really wasn't that big. I mean, and they added on to it.
I for sure, I know those stairs are steeper because I used to watch people jump and land and skid out just before they hit the street. I mean, people were doing crazy stuff. We were playing, and Gabe in his neighborhood, we were playing Army Men in the backyard and jumping off the back up. It looked like Sims, The neighborhood was lit up with kids running all around, and probably dogs and animals running all around. Luther, you should illustrate that. I could see you illustrating that.
We got a good question coming up here. Did Black Shaker Heights students ever overcome the stigma associated with John?
That's an excellent question. So
that's a case by case.
Yeah. It was interesting. They paid him to go away because they didn't like the findings of that. But I'd have to say, people move to Shaker because we have the reputation for these amazing schools, but schools don't get amazing by themselves.
Yeah.
And for many of our parents, they were working, and they maybe didn't have the time to really be able to give extra time in terms of like being engaged with the schools on the level that some of the other parents were.
Yeah.
I don't, and there was definitely, I'm sorry, there was racism. I'm going to tell you this story. I remember, so I did not have great grades because, like I said, I was constantly trying to prove that I wasn't all that smart. and I remember it was time to go to college, and I had a white guidance counselor. I don't remember his name, but I went, I'm telling
Mr. Wynn, curly hair, kind of ethnic looking. That just came out of nowhere. Mr.
It might have been him.
Can somebody verify that out there?
Billy, please do. I go to like get my applications, right? This is before you had like the portal where you can send out like 20,000 applications. So I was going to apply to 4 schools. And this guidance counselor told me, he's like, why don't you apply to community college? And I said, well, I don't want to go to community college. I want to go away to college. And he said, well, no college is going to take you with this grades. And I was like, okay. So I still apply to my schools. I get into all of my schools. I go back. I say, I got into all my schools. He said they had to
Wow.
take a certain number of Black people.
Oh, hells no.
So I mean, I never told my parents that story because they would have been up at their school causing all kinds of havoc. I just carried that with me for a very long time. But I was like, it was just bad. It was just bad.
Maybe it
And
was Vla. Go ahead. He said Vla, the
Vla,
guidance counselor.
I don't. It might have been him. I know he was our principal at.
It was like Mr. Mooney.
I remember Mr. Mooney.
It was a horrible, and it just really just.
Do you remember the segmentation? I remember Michael Chapman saying that Tri-C wasn't a college; it was a school of higher learning. So there was a stigma. It was military was the very lowest. Then the second tier was community college. And then up from that was state schools, because from my understanding, everyone could get into state schools. And then the next cut was Miami of Ohio, like the Ohio, New York,
that was our
Pennsylvania
Ivy. That was the public
League.
Ivy.
Yeah.
And then
my dad went there.
Yeah, then you get Yale and Harvard's. Those were for the Emilys and everybody else, the Jimmy Hexters, and there was the Jewish Ivy League too. There was what was it? The name Brandeis. I remember hearing Brandeis a lot. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another question here.
Well, was John Oak? I read about him in the book. He came along later. We didn't have any. Connection with him
I would agree with that statement in that, in the work that I do now. So now I'm a nursing professor and an associate dean for inclusive excellence at George Washington University. And it's just been my observation that
wait a minute, hold on before you get there, because I have a family of nurses. What field of nursing did you study, and then how did you matriculate into where you are now?
Yeah, so when you get your degree in nursing, it's a generalist nursing degree, and then you pick your specialty. So I was cardiac. I worked in critical care. Actually, my very first job, I worked on a med-surg floor, but I only worked there for about 6 months. So I did cardiac critical care, and then I could see the trend of healthcare and had no desire. The patients were getting bigger. The hours were getting, you work every other weekend when you're in a hospital. And I was out in LA for 18 years partying with people. Like I had to call in sick a lot to be able to.
It didn't fit your schedule.
Yeah, because your schedule comes out 6 weeks at a time, and you're at the mercy of trading shifts with people. And if sometimes people don't want to, you traded, then they don't want to trade back, and so then you're kind of messed up. So I knew I didn't want to be doing the same thing at 42 that I was doing at 22. So I went back and got my nurse practitioner. And so I'm a family nurse practitioner, but I don't like that either. Like I've never worked full time as a family nurse practitioner, other than when I worked as a school nurse practitioner for a decade in the Pasadena Unified Schools, and got a second master's in educational administration.
What was your experience in California socially compared to your Shaker experience, or we didn't even talk about your college experience? We're moving fast here. Were you in Boston?
I was in Boston. I always hoped that I would run into Quentin because I knew he was at Berkeley. There were a lot of people. Michelle went to BU. Harriet went to BU. And I think James Scribner might have gone to Boston University.
Did you ever run into New Edition?
No, I never ran into New Edition.
You were in Boston in the 80s, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a
How about New Kids? How about New Kids?
Spicy time in Boston, right
there.
Well,
and going to school there. So we lived in this bubble community, right? Like everything was kumbaya kind of thing for the most part. I've never been called the N-word ever until I went to school up there, and that was as long as you stayed on the college campuses, of which there are hundreds, almost like in a 50-mile radius. There are many schools in the Boston area. Once you start getting out in the neighborhood, you were kind of asking for trouble. So that's when I got called the N-word, because I was going to a movie with a friend and it wasn't on campus. And I thought, wow. And then my roommate that I had, my first roommate in college, I'll never forget this either. So, I was back then they would just kind of give you a little piece of paper, you smoke or don't smoke kind of thing. My roommate, I had moved in before her. She was from Rhode Island. She had never interacted with any Black people other than a African exchange student. That was it.
Yeah.
So when we meet, I've never had to share my room with anybody. I've had this nice life. So I'm trying really hard to be like a nice person and try to figure out how you're supposed to share rooms with people. Anyway, she told me that, she said, "Oh, when I got your information, I knew that you were Black because your name." Okay. Adriana is Italian version of Adrian. My mom's name is Adrian.
Yeah.
Last name Drake is very English, but she said she knew I was Black by my name, and she knew that I had to come from money because of the town. I'm like, what? So she already was like, it was this, and I still was trying. I mean, I was like trying really hard. And every weekend she wanted me to leave because her boyfriend was coming, and he was like some kind of like I think he was a plumber or something. And I was just like, oh my God. So then one day I was reading, there was a list of names, remember we had landlines. So people were calling. I had a whole list of names on my desk of people that had called me, and I was reading the names out loud to myself. And I got to this one name, and she said, "Oh yeah, that Black bitch called." And I was like, so I'm thinking, oh my God, what did my friend do? I didn't think like this woman's a bitch. I'm thinking, what did my friend say? So my friend was from East Orange, New Jersey. And I don't know if you guys know anything
I know about Orange. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Patterson. Plainfield, all that.
I went to their room, and she was a year ahead of me. So I tended to hang out with people that were like a year ahead of me because when I went to Boston University, we didn't have any nurses in our family, Eric. So I'm the first nurse. And my parents were very disappointed because they didn't know, like they wanted me to be a physician. I never wanted to be a physician. And, your parents are dangling that money. They're paying for Boston University, which is incredibly, it was $15,000 a year back in the 80s. And they're like, our money pays for a physician. So like, what are you going to do? If you want to go to college, you're going to do what they say. So I go to college to be a biology major, to be a physician, which I didn't want to do, and almost flunked out. And I remember getting ready to go back to school, and my grades came, and I had gotten an F in a class, and I didn't realize you don't recover from Fs in college, like when you take. So my mom said, I said something like, maybe I'm not cut out for college. Maybe I should just be a secretary, because they still had those back then, right? So I'm thinking maybe I should do that. And my mom started freaking out. She was like, you know what? You always want to be a nurse. When you go back, go to the nursing school and see if they, and she said, but don't tell your father until you get back to school about your grades. And so
didn't they learn from the high school experience? I guess they thought they won from that with your teacher when they colluded against you.
No. So it was fun. So I said, great. So I remember going to the nursing school, and the lady looked at my stuff, and she looked at me like, we don't want you either. But they did say, they were like, look, you can't get anything less than a B+. You have to take these classes that don't apply. Nursing classes are very specific. They don't apply to anything else outside of the school. So it was a big leap of faith. And then I had to go to Cleveland State one summer and take a class to correct the F credits that I got. And I did not know that nursing school has very high attrition rates, and it's very hard.
It's no joke. It is no joke.
So I did all that, and I wound up getting in, but I knew I was going to be okay, because I was failing my organic chemistry, and I was tutoring nurses in their organic chemistry. So it was kind of like a watered down version.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I'm going to be okay with this. But yeah. So I didn't. It wasn't until I started being with my nursing people that I really felt like a sense of community, because going to a predominantly white institution, we had there was like a Black student union, but I didn't really feel like, it was almost like, I mean, I don't believe in isolating myself. People are people. I like you until you show me some other reason why I don't like you.
Right.
And I'm just, I don't want to, I don't, militant would not be the right word, but it's just like, I just didn't feel like this was gonna, I'm gonna put you like this. When I was in nursing school, they had, files of information. If you cut yourself off from hanging out with white folks, you were not going to have access to information that could put you in a good place. And I still see this actually now with my sons. I have two sons. One goes to UVA and one goes to Virginia Tech. And the one that's at UVA, who's pre-med, is the same kind of, it still exists where we will self-segregate to our disadvantage when, if you just kind of just take people as people, things will be okay. But I mean, I get it. We have a legacy of hurt, and we try to protect ourselves from different situations, and we weren't always welcomed, obviously. So,
and you would be going against the tools that you obtained going through the shaker system. I mean,
yeah.
And
So,
also too,
all these stories.
We operate in a caste system,
yes.
And it's a social econ class. And so oftentimes, yes, as, in particular, being a Black person coming from Shaker, encountering other groups of Black people, if they know about Shaker in some way, shape, or form, or, other so-called indicators, oh, you're not up this class. Oh, so-and-so is not hood, or comes from a hood background, oh, they're bougie, whatever, then yeah, you got those people projecting their insecurities on you.
Yes.
I've said before, I knew coming out of school that I would be a token higher even back then. But at least I could speak the language, I could speak the experiences, I could socially and everything. So that's what Shaker gave us. I mean, we can't argue with that.
Slip in and out of whatever. I remember one time I was working with a woman when I was working as a school nurse practitioner, and she had just gotten out of jail, and she had a little preschooler I was trying to enroll, and I'm feeling like I could connect with her as a Black woman, and you don't know me and my experience, like just the way I was talking was letting her know that we weren't, so to me that's always very hurtful, but
it's unfortunate.
It is, but I try to appreciate people's different experiences, and just try to appeal to people on a human level. But so long story short,
it's funny. Let me add to that. My mom graduated from nursing school, and she went into drug rehab, and she worked at the Cleveland Treatment Center. She had to do code switching back so that she could relate to her patients, so that they would trust her, And my dad would say, "Why is she talking like that? Why is she?" Because she has to relate to her clientele. That's what that experience gave us.
Yeah, and it
is
interesting.
Code switching.
Yes, and I've had to do that many times, and I've also as a nurse, it's been frustrating at every level of my education, I experienced some level of, when I was working on my master's as a nurse practitioner, I was told, because I wear my hair a lot of different ways, maybe, have you ever considered being a hairstylist? I don't have anything against a hairstylist, but why would I'm not there. I'm like, and even when I was getting my PhD, the dean of the school sits me down, and so in nursing we have two different doctorates. You have a DNP, which is a clinical practice doctorate, similar to an EDD, and you have a PhD. And I knew I wanted to be a nursing professor, and that still is the gold standard for tenure track for whatever. So I was like, and I wanted to do research. So the dean sits me down and she says to me, "I see you're a nurse practitioner," because many nurse practitioners will, do the DNP route. She's like, "I see you're a nurse practitioner. We have this new program for DNPs. I'm just curious, why are you applying to the PhD program? Do you even know what that is?"
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, like, oh, okay. And I think, however I looked at her, because I have a very expressive face, I've been told, she tried to course correct, but it was
too late.
It was too late. But yeah, so back to my little college thing. This is how they dealt with you back then. I remember, so Jerry Franklin, my boyfriend, went to Cornell, and then he eventually transferred to Northeastern. But I remember after his first semester at Cornell, he came back and he told me, so mind you, I'm a junior at that point. He says, Adriana, these white people from these little towns are nothing like the white people we grew up with, and you need to be aware of that. Like, if there's a problem, they're going to always side with the white people. I was like, so when I went to school and I had this girl calling one of my friends a black bitch, and I go to my friend and I'm like, hey, what happened? And her being from East Orange, she was ready to fight. So we actually go to the room. And I turn on the light. She's in bed with her boyfriend, my roommate, and he wasn't about to do anything. He was just cowered up with the blankets. And so my friend was like, who the hell? She's cursing and everything. And then she starts going toward the bed to pull the girl out of the bed. I don't know what she was going to do, but I just knew we're adults. And my mom has been a prosecutor and a public defender. And I knew we were going to get a world of trouble if we touched. So I didn't know what to do. So all I did was turn out the light, because I thought, okay, if I turn out the light, that's all I could think to do. Turned out the light, and then my friend said, Adriana, if you don't turn on that motherfucking light, I'm gonna kick your motherfucking ass. And I turned the light back on. But then I pushed her out the room, and then but I got thrown out of the dorm. The whole point is,
wow, okay.
I was the one that, and then every room, they kept me on campus because my parents were paying for me to go there. I didn't tell my parents at the time. But every room, that option I had, they said, clearly you don't know how to get along with white people. This is what I was told. And so therefore, these are the options. So they were all black people who had crazy ass white roommates that either were prejudiced or felt uncomfortable or whatever. So those were who I had to pick from. So I did wind up picking a young lady who wound up on the nursing floor. It was destined for me to be a nurse. It was on the nursing floor, even though they said, you don't have to be a nurse. We just need to get you out of that dorm. I had to move out that night. And she had a big crucifix on her wall, and I thought she was probably pretty safe. So I moved in with her, and everything worked out in the end. But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what it turned out, her roommate tried to strangle her. So
wow.
She had a white roommate that they got into a physical altercation, and the roommate tried to strangle her. So it was like
I remember hearing a story, and this was like a couple of years ago, one of those internet stories. There was a young black college student who had a white roommate, and this white roommate was taking the girl's toothbrush.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
Putting it in the toilet or something.
Oh, yeah.
And sticking it up her butt. That's what I heard. And she
I heard
filed
that.
charges. Yeah.
Jerry told me that there was a black guy and a white guy living in, and the white guy was putting like crazy glue in his bed. Like, he was doing different things, and the black guy was the one that got put out. Like, so that was just how they dealt with things back then.
Can you imagine what it is now, or what it's going to become? I can't even imagine. And my mom was in nursing school in the 40s. I guess I'll have to ask my sister if there are any stories like that. But she had an integrated. She went to Metro. That's where she trained. So
it's interesting.
And that was in the 40s. That was in the 40s. That was in 45, because she was training to go overseas, but she didn't have to go get into World War II. Anyway.
Yeah. No, but
man, I mean, you're an administrator and you're on a college campus. So are you hearing any similar stories? Are there black nurses coming to you? And
yeah, well, I think because we live in such polarized times, people feel more comfortable to just say crazy things. So in my role as Inclusive Excellence Dean, it used to be DEI, but we're all pivoting the language, right? Because DEI is a bad word. DEI is a bad word. So I mean, and I've had to deal with some incidents, and you're just kind of like, really? We're in 2024, 2025, and we're still dealing with that.
We got some more questions here.
Oh, no, you know what? I think, being a parent myself, there's only so much you can try to do. I think I was kind of what is it? I was a product of not having the strongest self-esteem. And so, you know, and I actually did not, I wanted to, I didn't have the strongest self-esteem. I wanted to be, many people in our class did go to HBCUs. I didn't want to do that because I just felt like that's not how we operate in the world. And so I didn't feel like I needed that. But maybe now when I think about it, I would have had a better experience. You know, yeah, I think that, I just, like I said, because I kind of come from the approach that I'm just like, I just enjoy people. I think I'm more resilient that I've had some of these circumstances, and it does give me some inside perspectives on different things, having had the experiences that I've had. I do always try to look for, even in my role as senior leadership, the commonality. Like I actually use a lot of the arts when I try to have discussions about race and culture and ethnicity, because um, we have more in common as humans than not. So when and since we are in such a polarized time, people get triggered very easily. I can't just have a panel of people and decide I'm going to talk about race. If I show a film, I've been showing films, like I showed this film Birthing Justice, which addresses, it talks about the maternal mortality, particularly among Black women. It's abominable. And so many students of other backgrounds include, you know, whether they immigrated here or they are white or they're, you know, whatever, had no idea. And so then we could have a thoughtful conversation and be able to cultivate the allies that we need to move the needle on these kinds of issues. So I mean, I use music. I'm looking for plays, things that will bring us together where, you know, it's like people don't want to. When I tell people, I have walked in a patient's room and the patient has looked at me and said, "I don't want you taking care of me because you're Black," or they call me the N-word.
Yeah, well,
They don't believe me. They don't believe me. But if they see it, like, you know, if they see a film, or if somebody else says, I don't know. It's just it's very interesting. But I mean,
you don't know until you know. My ex is the president or high up in college. She's the head of public health, and she learned a lot. She's white, so it was actually quite eye-opening what she was learning and what she was trying to teach, because she helped set up the curriculum for doctors, and in order for them to graduate, before they had to could graduate, they had to take her class in public health. So public health is associated with urban Black folks and what they're going through. And that's very important because there's no money in it per se, but at least they have an idea of what's going out there, because it's still prevalent with Black women. I mean, their health is compromised because they're not believed. They're looked down upon, and they're
you know, I tell my friends, if you have a healthcare background, let them know when you walk in the emergency room, because they will treat you completely different.
Oh yeah.
And it's sad that it has to be that way. For people that don't know, my husband, he passed away in 2021, but he was white, and I bring that up because he learned a lot, like, you know, how things impact you. So every Black man in my family has been stopped, had a traffic stop, every single one. My son, I live in a very, you know, I live in Fairfax, Virginia. The area I live is very white. I remember my husband, he had a spreadsheet of where he wanted our kids, like, you know, our parents did, getting the best education, strong believers in public education. He did not go to public schools, but he was a public school teacher when we met. He taught first grade. He had been a lawyer before. And so he showed me the high schools that he had interest in that had great places for the kids. And I looked at the demographics, and I didn't think it. I thought, well, you know, I went to school that, you know, mostly white, but we still had more color than in the end what my kids had.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out some things that were very disconcerting. And sometimes I think if I had a do-over, maybe we should have tried to look, someplace else. But that being said, where was I going with that story? Oh, because one day my younger son, so both my sons are probably about your color, Eric. But one has dreads and kind of like, and it's funny how I told my kids, look, y'all can identify however you want, but I'm going to tell you, when people see you, they might not know till they see me. And for whatever reason, people have a strong desire to categorize people in little boxes to make themselves feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I said, so you can say you white, you can say you black. Like, I don't really, So the older one at that time, he was, he identified as being black. And then the younger one, if you ask him, he's mixed or tan or whatever. So he's walking home from playing basketball at the high school. Forgot his jacket. He walks back to get his jacket. In the time that he turned around to walk back, there was a robbery at a house, or the break-in at a house. When he's walking back, the cops pull up, and I'm out of the country with nursing students. I'm in Costa Rica. It's all right. So I'm not even around to be able to do anything. The cops pull up, they jump out, they ask him where he was going, this and that. I always told my kids, look, it shouldn't be this way. I wish it wasn't, but your whole goal is to get out of a situation alive. Yes. So whatever you have to do, it might seem like, you were, cowering down or what, like, I just want you alive. We'll deal with it later. Memorize the badge number. We'll deal with whatever else later. So they want to see his hands. They had the witness in the car who said, this is the kid that broke in the house. They have video. The video, my kid is at the time was like 6'3". The kid in the video was like 5'8". They had different pants on. The only thing that was the same, they were the same color, and they had the same kind of long hair. And the kid, it turned out we actually knew the kid that did the actual break-in, but at the time, when he gets home, he tells his brother, and he says, I need you to cut my hair. I got stopped by the cops because my hair was too long. And he said, bro, you didn't get stopped by the cops because your hair was too long. You got stopped by the cops because you walking while black. So they call me. I just had a total meltdown. I'm crying. I can't be with my kid. I'm upset. My husband was at work. When he gets home, I talk to him. He's not reacting the way I want him to react. I want him to be fucking pissed. Yeah. I'm mad. He's just like, he's mad, but he's not visceral mad. Right. And I remember just hanging up with him and calling my mom, because I just felt like I need to get something else. And so my mom was able to kind of talk me down. And then when I called my husband back, I could appreciate that hasn't been his experience. So I just, and we had a plan, and it was interesting because he went to the police station. He actually met with the sergeant and the officer that stalked my son. And they said they knew immediately that they had the wrong kid. They said he was the most polite kid in 34 years of policing. But they felt that they had to stop him because they had this witness in the car that just jumped up and down and said that this was the kid. Right. And so, that just really hurt my heart that, he's just walking in his own little neighborhood and is getting stopped by the cops because of something. And like I said, they have video. He's not lining up with any of this. But that's our reality, unfortunately. And so, my husband, he was very good at trying to be mindful. He definitely, like, if we went to a place, a lot of times I'll scan the room just to see how many other people look like me. Not because I want to do anything any different. I'm just curious. Yeah. Yeah.
Is he from, I know Fairfax is pretty liberal because
Fairfax is very liberal. And it was funny too, because when we got married, we started dating and then decided we're going to get married. He's from a very blue collar family. And the mom, her sister actually lived in Cleveland and Painesville. And she said, once again, it was like, she said, well, she actually even said, you come from a wealthy town, and so my kids had it rougher than you. I was like, what? Boy. So, but you know what? opportunity, right? Like I wound up actually being her favorite in-law. I just approached it like this woman is ignorant, not malicious, like ignorant, like she doesn't know. And so I just really allowed her to ask questions. You know, white people assume that we want to be other colors because our life is so. I never wished I was any other color, but these are the kind of ways that people will think, but they don't have a place where they can actually have a conversation with people where they feel comfortable and can learn.
Or
My mom said
sometimes,
I'm very patient.
or sometimes, they're shaped by media, and sometimes that's a
Yes.
very hit or miss type of thing.
Hmm.
And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so they come with it with all
She,
these
she told me she did
notions.
not have any experience with, and she had two black people that she supervised. But like even her term, like she said, I don't. She says I'm going to have a challenges with you if you have attitude. Now, would she have used that same descriptor if I, like? So it was like, what do you mean by what? So yeah, and it's interesting to me as being a professor. Like when if you're a female professor, the research is consistent that you're going to have challenges. Students just are disrespectful. And then you add on that layer of being a faculty of color. It is this
I've been through that too, being a
Yeah.
faculty
unpleasant.
member of. I had to. We had critiques. I taught design at a college in Rochester. Let's put it that way. And I challenged the kids, and the kids aren't challenged. I hate to say it. It's they buy their education. So we had critiques, and I had these kids bring in other kids to sit by them in helicopter and almost be witnesses as I'm asking people to give like direct critique, like honest critique on their work and for them. And man, it was an uncomfortable experience. I felt like I was being judged by just trying to have a healthy critique for these seniors that were supposed to graduate. Yeah, you're put, and then now with they can rate you.
Oh yeah,
Isn't there a rating system?
that you get rated. With social media, students are actively trying to get faculty terminated. I've
Hmm.
had that experience
I've been
where,
told to pass kids through and give them a gentleman C and that type of
yeah, I
stuff.
mean,
It's like,
we have a lot of challenges going on, but yeah, I mean, but I will have people will write things like she has an attitude. She's not approachable. What like I've actually had colleagues yell at people and they don't get stuff like that. I've never yelled at a student. I would like to, but I,
Well,
but I,
I just
the
feel like
I
rules aren't the
it's
same.
cognitive dissonance in a way, because like when I taught at Cleveland State and I'm teaching film and TV, my experience up to that point for these mostly in-state students who hadn't been nowhere, they're looking at me like, oh, your accomplishments are fake. And there was like this undercurrent of like, oh, I got to try to test you about your film
yeah,
knowledge
yeah.
and ability and stuff like that. And I got some snarky stuff on the rate my professor. So yeah, we always have to go 110% and sometimes over explain, overstand why we are in the room.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's
And
it's
there's a
just
line, and you can't help but have an attitude about that.
oh yeah,
But
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I had a student once. He not only had an issue with me being a woman of color. He was trying to bring up some. You know how there's certain metrics we use that are used in healthcare in terms of, like, for example, for kidney transplantation, or the ESR rate for failure was different. Like, so he was trying to bring up something like that, and I was like, I said something to the effect that basically that he's perpetuating stereotypical myths in healthcare or whatever.
mhm.
He
Mm-hmm.
didn't like that, blah blah blah, the research. And I was like, well, I said, you're welcome to bring me the research because I know the research as well. So he comes up at the break and he brings this. It's not the actual study. I was like, I need to see the actual study because there's things we look at it, like sample size, the design of the study. What is the research question? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not bringing me anything that I can actually evaluate and help you to understand that you're sadly misinformed. And he just was not having it. He was just like it was just, anyway. But yeah, so higher ed is, as you guys know, is special.
And especially the trend of intellectuals are. I mean, that's the new trend now. So
Yeah.
anything and everything's going to be challenged. People read things in sound bites. College kids don't even read
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
anymore.
They rely on PowerPoint slides from the professors. Often they don't read the textbooks, and it actually is really scary when we think about it in terms of health, because with the movement to question vaccines that have been tried and true. I mean, we thought we saw stuff with COVID, like what it is. I don't even want to.
We're about to see polio come back.
Yeah, we're about to see polio. And people don't understand the whole goal of the vaccine program, which was incredibly successful here in the United States because we tied it to education, was to be able to retire vaccines. At some point, the vaccine was supposed to go away, but now that's never going to happen. People are all upset because their kids have upwards of maybe 18 shots by the time they're going to start kindergarten. Well, it's because we have so many other people that are electing not to. We're having an increase in whooping cough. I mean, so I don't know. It's
the decline of the empire, as I've railed before, and we're watching it decline. A lot of people.
Well, yeah, and I think this 24-hour news cycle that we have. I mean, remember when the news went off at midnight and came on at 6, and we only had ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. And I'm not saying even back then, I know that media definitely had a slant, right? When you had riots and stuff going on, they were definitely feeding us certain things. But in terms of who was delivering the news, I didn't have a good sense of Walter Cronkite's political opinions when he was delivering the news. And now it's like, it's entertainment. And so it's like, it's very harmful, and kids just don't get respite, right? Like if you're in school with these cell phones, and let's say somebody is kind of awkward and you don't like them, and then you just text your friend, and then you don't ever get away from that. And I don't know how our society is going to.
We used to laugh at those tabloids like the National Enquirer. As you're waiting in line, you would laugh at it and giggle and look at it until you checked out. Now that's all there is. That's what our news is. It's tabloid.
I was laughing. Luther had put that Channel 43 was the bomb.
Super host.
I used to watch
John Lanigan.
Yes. Oh, and
Lanigan at large.
I liked Big Chuck and Houlihan at night. Goulardi, yes. And Mr. Jingling, which is a Cleveland thing, I know. But people think it's so weird that we celebrate an elf.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Mr. Jingling.
At Hallie's.
Keeper of the keys on Hallie's 7th floor. You'll be looking for it. I don't remember the rest of it.
And that's where Halle Berry got her name, from Hallie's.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, and I don't think remember dressing up to take the rapid to go downtown to see Santa, or just to go downtown.
I think I went to Severance.
I was just getting ready to say that. Severance. I was just going to say that. I used to get dressed up.
Maybe because my grandmother worked at Halle, so we always went downtown. We always had to dress up to go downtown.
That's black people thing right there. Got to wear your Sunday best. Yeah.
My best memory, my last memory about dressing up was going to Public Hall, Easter, 1979, with my friend Fred Jones. We went to see the Jacksons. They played 2 shows on Easter. We were dressed at our Sunday best, and Michael Jackson started singing stuff from Off the Wall. So, in part of the segment. So, it was.
And that brings me to, when you think about, so I know, and I was looking for this for my own children, the fact that we had the ability, I remember starting French like in the 4th grade. I remember going to see the Cleveland Orchestra every year. But one year, I don't know what school cut up really bad, but they were like doing spitballs, like the.
Oh, that was
They just laughed.
that was Moreland.
Oh my God, it was horrible. I was just like, what in the world? Yeah, I remember.
I think it was Moreland. It wasn't us from Ludlow because we would be, the second, the second
Yeah,
suspect.
I remember the musicians.
But,
they gave us a warning, and then they still kept doing it, and then they just like all left, and I was like, what?
But,
like I didn't even understand what happened.
To be fair to Moreland and Ludlow, I think we remember that was like a lot of different schools from the area.
Yes,
that were
it
there.
Was. That's why I didn't know what school it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just playing. I put my money on the Cleveland schools because they were paper clips and rubber bands and throwing dimes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was bad. And it was interesting. I had the opportunity to go with my dad. My dad, his first principalship was at Whitney Young, which was, was a nice with junior high school. But you remember busing, the great social experiment that failed. It was, I remember thinking like going to their schools, just following around for the day, and they didn't have nearly the kind of resources that we had for any language resources, math. It was just, horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
I remember I attended Cleveland Institute of Art. I didn't leave Cleveland. I lived at home, and just meeting people from the West Side that hadn't been around Black people, the questions I was asked. Why do Black people do this? Why don't you talk like this? Why do you this and that? It's like, wow. I can only imagine what you were experiencing in Boston. That had to be exponentially different than my experience.
So do you like Boston baked beans?
Yeah.
I never had them, so I don't know. What about Boston cream pie? Well, I mean, what's
seafood?
Yeah, the seafood. Yeah,
Maryland got better seafood than Boston.
I don't know. I beg to differ on that.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying. I'm just stirring up trouble because I don't eat like crabs and lobsters and all that.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. But I'm just saying. Old Bay is Maryland. Okay.
That definitely is a Maryland thing. They don't do a lot of Old Bay
yeah.
In Boston.
Do they have legal fish at in Boston?
They have legal seafood was like the it was. I mean, it wasn't like it was supposed to be good seafood, but it wasn't like the best seafood.
Isn't that to make sure that you don't get the the seafood that's colored so it makes it look fresher from China or something like that? That was my understanding. Because a lot of that stuff gets shipped here and it's old and they color it and it's should have been thrown away or something. That's what I heard. I'm not a big seafood eater, but with all this deregulation going on, I'd be very wary of what you're eating these days. Does food taste the same to you? Food doesn't taste the same to me.
No, as you get older, your taste buds kind of like change, and people don't eat. But things don't taste the same that they used to. So
I think that's part of it. I think it's the cheapening of the ingredients.
Yes, that too. Yeah, that's definitely. As a matter of fact, I mean, I was you guys know I was on this cruise, and even my kids realized like the quality of the food has changed, but everything is way more expensive. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But
that was a pretty extravagant ship. I was looking at all the details, the wood detail. How old was that ship?
That ship was 18 years old.
Okay, that was cool.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid to go on those things because you just eat forever, don't you?
Yeah, I gained 6 pounds in 8 days, but I'm working it off.
Or
anybody should go on a cruise at least once.
But no, here's the thing, though. You also got to be mentally like firm because the ocean calls out to you on those cruises.
Oh yeah, well people. So people
in the middle of the night.
Yes, and people don't watch their kids, right? And so back when we were growing up, you had your neighbors watching out for you. Like they would say, they felt like they could tell you something, like Eric, get off of such and such. We were on this ship, and I'm sitting there with my son, and we're sitting there looking out at the ocean, and it's just very magical. It's so dark out there, and you kind of like imagine, like I was imagining, like, wow, people just like jumping in some rickety old boat back then, going not knowing no land for days. Then my mind went to what our ancestors went through, being
Yeah.
taken from their land, going on this ship across. Like it was all my mind was wandering.
We don't have
Anyway,
a history with water, black people. Let's be honest.
yeah, it was a lot.
Swimming pools and water and all that stuff.
But so I was really reflecting on that. And then this European family, the girls were like 10 and 12. Obviously, the 10-year-old was upset about something. So and they were speaking, I don't know what language they were speaking. But the 12-year-old was doing these pirouettes. And we were on the 4th level. So there's like a very low railing. Like you could, like if you wanted to just, like, no problem, jump it right over. Then that's the muster station for the ship. So if there is an emergency, everybody's supposed to gather on the 4th floor. So she's doing these pirouettes, and I looked at my son. I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "I can't. My peace is being disturbed. I can't sit here because I'm afraid that she's just going to pirouette right off and I don't want to witness it." And he said,
Right.
"Mom, I feel the same way." And I didn't feel like I could say anything. And I saw numerous instances where people just were not making sure their kids were safe, and you don't feel like you can say anything because somebody, "What are you talking to my kid?" So it was not. That was unnerving.
Well, especially with all the drinking. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? There's the Indian side, and then there's 2 sides. Well, apparently the Indian side, when the Native American or whatever you want to call it, they don't have any fences. So when you get off of the bus to tour it, there's all this gravel, and there are no fences. And my kids were playing around, and I hate heights. And I could feel the grade and the sliding of it, with all the gravel that was outside of it. I backed away. I went to the bus. And then later on, some years later, my kid was telling me, he goes, "Yeah, man, I almost slipped down. I was screwing around because that's what kids do." So, the cruise ships, I always hear about people going over. I don't know how frequent that is.
It's not too frequent, but I did learn that, they're kind of like if you go on a field trip with school kids, the number of people you left with, you have to come back with, and you have to account for the people because I was worried when I had to go off the ship to take my son to the emergency room in St. Thomas. And they arranged all the transportation, but I'm thinking, oh my God, what if we don't get back in time? But then I found out, like, oh no, they'll make sure that they'll wait. You don't know that, but yeah. So it was very, very interesting. But
talk a little bit about coming back for the reunion, because for me, I think that's the first time I like met you like in person, because like I abstractly remembered you from high school.
I don't know if that's good.
Well, what I mean was like I knew of your name, but up into a period of time, I didn't like connect the face. You know what I mean? But it was good, that we had stayed in that. We had the top floor of the Airbnb, and you guys were at the bottom. I got a shout out to Michelle. Again, Michelle, I'm so sorry that I was prancing on that floor.
But she went outside. Like, I watch a lot of murders. When she said, she's like, "Were you just walking around?" I was like, I'm in the bed, like coloring on my iPad. No. She's like, "Oh, there's somebody. We're not alone." I was like, "What the fuck?" And so then I hear the noise, and then she's like, so what did she do? She goes outside. I'm like, my ass is not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. Oh no.
Yes, but I'm the devil is working lightly to tread lightly, so I'm working on my steps, Michelle. So just letting you know.
Adriana, did you remember me? I remembered you.
Yes,
Gabe didn't remember me.
I remembered you. I thought you were cute, but quiet.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have known. Nobody talked to me. You know what? Yeah. When you don't go through the school system, I didn't start until Byron. I was in the neighborhood. You miss out on the clicks, and so that was it.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta show the pictures. I forgot we've been talking. You gotta show the pictures so I can.
We have show and tell here. Yeah.
Show and tell. So, I got my family, and then that's my older brother, dad, me, and my younger. A lot of people don't know I have a younger brother because he did not go consistently to the Shaker schools. He went to private schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
all right.
let me know when to go to the next slide, please.
Next slide.
Okay.
All right, here we have Lomon.
There's Dana.
Notice I am not in this picture. But my dad still bought it. Oops,
sorry.
Go back.
Sorry. Yeah.
So you got Quentin and Clifton and Dana, Steven Siegel, Stephanie Siegel, I'm sorry, and Chris Brown, and
I think
Butch. Mark Schechter, Robbie Mears, Stephen
Wait, where's
Harris.
Mears?
Mears is
on
the very
far
end.
right, far right.
Yeah,
let me see if I can blow this up. How's that?
There's Quentin.
Okay.
Butch, David Venables with the red hair, Kim Adams. Alicia Griffin is next to Butch.
There's Mike Chapman.
And Joey Pushkar. Oh my God, Joey Pushkar. When the Miami Dolphins won in '72, he had Miami Dolphin jacket, gloves, hat. I was like, what? This kid is nuts. Yeah, Joey Pushkar with his Miami Dolphins. And I don't, a couple other people I don't know. Mike Chapman, yes, you named him.
There's Cliff, there's Quentin, there's in the front row, there's Dana Mitchell. I don't know. Then there's Chris Brown.
That's little Wendy Harrington on the left. A little Wendy.
Oh, okay. And there's Mears, and then you go up. I don't know the girl. There's that must be Venables. I don't know the kid. Then I know there's Steve. What's his last name?
Harris. Stephen Harris.
I don't know the girl. There's Mike Chapman, and the girl back there. I don't know. I see Butch, and I forgot the girl that's next to him. I remember
Alicia
her.
Griffin.
Alicia Griffin. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder what happened. So now we can go to the next one. I'm actually in the next one because I was always the tallest person in class. You'll see me way in the back.
I'm glad you brought these pictures. These are great.
Thanks. Okay. So I'm looking.
There's Dave. Yeah.
Sarah Silberger, Elton Jackson. I think Andrew Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who the blondie is. I think this might be Carrie Jo Koleski. Cynthia Coe.
I know the next one, Mark Fisher.
Yes, Mark Fisher. And then
Fisher. We used to go Fisher Fazios. We know a fart named Mark for you. That's what John Henry Johnson used to sing that.
Yes, John Henry Johnson. Oh my God! And then there's Melissa Levitz and Vanessa Roberts. And there's Robbie again.
And Mike Chapman
and Chris
Brown.
Robin Holland. I'm not sure who this little girl is on the end on the left, but Robin Holland. I'm not sure who the girl is. Lee Gleason. Look at little Lee there.
She's my cousin. I don't know if she knows that, but we're related.
And Janice Terry.
Yep.
Elizabeth Routman, who unfortunately passed away.
Man. Yeah.
Yep. And then I think is that Mark Schechter? And then
that's
Bruce.
Schechter. That's Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Bruce looking angry, sitting there. Little
and I was happy to, Lomon, I thought was I think we only had about 350 kids at Lomon. And then when we went to Byron, then I was able to meet other people. I met Yvette Elmore. I met, like I said, we talked about Joy and Pam, Pam Atwater.
Okay.
Yeah, she was in a lot of my honors classes. So then the next thing I think is that I won a little contest. I didn't even try, but this is my little for the calendar. They made us in class for 6th grade. Like everybody has to sit there and draw a picture for the calendar, and I didn't want to be bothered with that. So I came up with that.
Nice.
And so then my dad bought so many calendars because he was so excited that he won the calendar cover.
And I gave him out, gifts.
Oh my God! Yeah, and
you should make that into a T-shirt.
Oh Lord! And then moving on, this is you won't be able to read it, but it's just like I love the how they. I'm going to read it. Shaker Heights is a fine residential community of 40,000 located on the east side of Cleveland, Ohio. The Shaker schools have achieved a national reputation for excellence with 90% of the seniors enrolling in college. This forward-looking community offers unlimited opportunities to career teachers. The school district is near the cultural center of Cleveland, which includes 2 universities, Severance Hall, home of the Cleveland Symphony Orchestra, and museums of art, health, and natural history. The salary for a teacher who had a bachelor's degree ranged from $11,447 to $20,032. And if you had a PhD, it went from $13,696 to $24,903.
You want to hear something funny? When my parents got divorced, the child support for each kid from my father was $20.
Whoa! Wow!
I remember gas being 60 cents a gallon.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. And then the last thing that I had was the school highlights in 1978. They said the school opened in Shaker Heights in 1912 with 30 students. Today, that was in 1978, approximately 6,425 students attend classes in 12 buildings. 3,165 are enrolled in 9 elementary schools. 1,580 attend 2 junior high schools, and 1,680 are present at the high school. The average class size in the elementaries is 22-1 and approximately 24-1 in the secondary schools. They had total professional staff of 472, and of the total number of employees, 357 were classroom teachers and 78 were special resource teachers or librarians or counselors. There were 37 administrators. They had 8 doctors. They had doctors back then and nurses, and they had 17 instructional aides, and they had 230 non-certificated employees.
Wow.
Yeah. So just a little snapshot of our little city.
Yeah, that was.
And the alternative school was a new and unique program in 1978. The alternative school
down in the basement. Yeah,
down in the basement.
So in your travels, do people, when you say Shaker Heights, do they equate with that? Do they know about Shaker Heights?
You know what was so weird? When I was up in Boston, they'd say, where are you from? And I'd say, if I said I was from Shaker, they thought I was being pretentious. So then I would switch. I'd say, I'm from Cleveland. And then they'd say, well, what part? And I'd say Shaker. Why did you just say that? But more people knew Shaker than knew Cleveland. It was weird. Even when I went out to LA, I was out in LA for 18 years. And that was a very different experience because education was not, I don't want to say it wasn't valued, but I'll put it to you like this. I go out there with a bachelor's degree. I'm working on a floor. It's only 3 people that have bachelors in nursing, and we all came from out of state. One from Oregon, one from North Carolina, and me from Massachusetts coming, And even the assistant head nurse and the head nurse did not have bachelor's degrees. And so I remember saying, I have my bachelor's degree, and they're like, oh my God, you have your bachelor's? I'm thinking, what?
Yeah,
that's really weird. But so it was just a very different kind of place out there. So
yeah. So do you have any LA stories? Like anybody?
LA, let's see. Do I have any LA stories? Well, I was out there during the riots and the earthquake. Matter of fact, if the earthquake had occurred and I didn't have a roommate, I would have moved back to the East Coast sooner because I was in the Northridge quake and that was horrible.
Right. Oh wow!
Our toilet came off of the thing. The glass. I mean, it was like being in a war zone. Like I didn't even. That was horrible.
That was 88. 88. Yeah.
That was 96, and then the LA riots. I can't remember when the whole Rodney King thing, but that was surreal.
Wasn't there earthquake? The earthquake was during the World Series.
There was one, but that was 88. That was up north. That was up north.
Northridge. Okay, yeah. That's why I thought you said Northridge. Okay.
Yeah, the Northridge quake was 96. The Rodney King thing, it was so crazy because it was such a. And then the OJ thing was. I was out there for that. I was getting ready for work and watching the chase. I'm like, what? It was kind of really weird. And then it just the tension between whites and blacks, because I knew plenty of black people that thought OJ did it, but that's not who they were showing on the television. Everybody was like, OJ innocent, OJ innocent. It's like, oh my God. And I remember getting in an elevator and a couple of white nurses were just like, what am I going to do?
Well, we were rooting for different reasons. We actually thought he had a chance to beat the system, or because he had money that he was on equal plane.
He just should have quietly slunk moved to Paris or something. He just kept getting into trouble because he did get off, but
okay. Anyway, well, the story is Jason did it, allegedly. Jason Simpson committed the crimes. And So that's the story because Furman and all those guys were so hell bent on proving that OJ did it that they conducted a sloppy investigation.
Well, it
And
definitely was sloppy.
and personally, I believe OJ knew who did it, but he didn't. I think personally he didn't do the knifing. I think he knew who did it, and he was going to take that to his grave.
On a light note, I was
Yes.
a contestant on a game show, but it never aired.
Oh yeah, what was it
What
called?
was it?
You
Yeah.
guys remember that show, The Love Connection?
Yeah. Wow, you're on that?
Yeah.
That was on in the afternoon.
Yeah, so I auditioned for it because I just wanted to see myself on television. Like I didn't think like I would actually get picked. So it was very interesting. So you would show up and you would be in this room that was kind of like an office building, and they have you sitting in a circle, and they would ask you questions. They would take a Polaroid of you and staple you to your application, and then they would say, okay, we'll get in touch with you, but we want to see blah, and they might name like 6 people, and those are the people that actually were going to be recorded, and you had to get recorded that day. And so I had wanted to, like, I wanted a guy that was, tall, at least had at least had a bachelor's degree, that was nice, blah, blah, blah. They set you up to fail. They set me up with this guy that worked in a bomb factory. He didn't have any college education, and he had been on the show before, but the date was horrible. So it was almost unprecedented that they would allow someone to go back out on a date. So he actually picked me. And I remember the producer calling, and he was like, you got picked and you're going to go on this date. And then everything has to happen like rapid. And they gave $50 for you to go on this date. And we were supposed to go out to like hot air ballooning, but then at the last minute, he just decided he wanted to go to dinner. But the thing that turned me off and why it didn't get aired was he wanted me to like make a pact that even if the date was not good, that I wouldn't tell the truth. And I'm like, I'm what? And so we never went on the date, so they wouldn't air the show because he picked me.
Did you ever see that Netflix movie about the dating game? It really happened. This guy was stalking this woman and tried to kill her.
Oh.
There's a Netflix movie about that. And I think the guy was from Cincinnati because my sister knew the story as well. I have to look that up. Yeah, there was a guy that was stalking the woman that he wanted to date with.
Yeah, it was on the actual dating game.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, no. Well, yeah. So maybe it was good that I didn't go on the date.
I tell you, man, with the online dating, I've heard some stories. I mean, I participated in that after my divorce. Man, that is the Wild West. There's, my God.
Yeah, I have participated in that. It is not fun. I'm just happy being solo.
Well, I mean, this might sound not chauvinistic, but being a woman, man, it's just, I've heard of people being stalked and followed and just.
Yeah. No, I'm very quick to, actually I went out on a date. I only went on a couple dates. I'm like, well, and the guy was like, oh, do you want to come back to my house and watch football? And I just looked at him and like, I don't know you. You could be a freaking serial killer. And he just looked at me like I was insane. But I mean, I speak my mind. I just say whatever. But I'm always, I watch a lot of murders. So.
Yeah.
I love the ID channel.
I remember online dating had a stigma to it. Like, oh, you're a loser if you go online dating.
Unfortunately, I think it's really the only way. If you think about it, we live in such a globalized society. People are moving all over the place. It's not like you're going to be meeting somebody through a cousin or a friend or whatever. I mean,
but you lose those basic skills of communicating and those social cues and
you don't want to date on the job because that's terrible too.
Yeah, so people don't read books.
Depends on the job.
Okay, well, like a normal job.
Okay, yeah, no, but like film and TV is a normal job. I mean, people, like if
but then what if you break up with the person and then it's uncomfortable?
Then you gotta work.
It's a case by case basis. It's not across the board like that. It's really about
Well,
the
I
two
did meet
people.
I met my husband on the job, but we didn't work at the same school, but I did meet him on the job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's romances that happen a lot of times. Like you're on a production for like a couple of months, whatever. Sometimes things jump off, and then you see where they go and stuff like that. But again, it's not. It really depends. I think it's a case by case basis. So
So, like,
that's
who do you
just.
remember? I have a question for you guys. Who do you remember being the couples when we were in high school or even junior high school? Who were the couples beside Ab and Priscilla?
Oh, that's the first one that comes to mind.
Everybody loves that story.
Yeah. Who were the couples?
Ken Johnson and Pam. Pam, the volleyball player.
Oh, Pam Williams.
Pam Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that was when our main couple, I thought.
and there was
Yeah.
Miriam and John Brown, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
and then Bobby Wirt and Lisa Hodge.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Uh, on the other side of the fence.
Oh, George Hopkins and Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole. Can't
Was it
remember. I can't
Anderson?
remember that. Anderson. Yes.
Anderson. Yeah.
Who else?
Trying to think. We need that game
Oh,
show timer.
Robbie Mayers and Kim Sims.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I
Come on,
need a
Adriana.
lifeline. I need a lifeline. Who can I call?
Do your kids? Did your kids date in high school? Because my kid they just hooked up. Whatever.
Oh, my younger son has been
Oh,
with the same girl for 6 years.
come on, Kim. Oh,
Oh,
duh,
thank you, Greg Fuller and Kim Arney. All
duh,
right.
Mm-hmm.
duh.
And my older son, he never dated. Yeah. Oh, yes, and I
Exactly. Perfect, Luther. That's
yep.
exactly. And then my father was on the arson squad as a fireman, and then he became a detective. And he swore up and down he had just retired, and he was following that. There's no way he could have done that. No way he could have done that. Then later on, although everything had gone through whatever it did, he finally admitted, yeah, he did it. He did it.
Now I think his first gut was right. He was there. OJ was there, and he knew who did it.
Maybe he was right from that point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how about, do you think the Kardashian is OJ's daughter?
Oh,
They've
Chloe.
Chloe, yeah.
This is his LA gossip. Come on, Adriana. You spent 18 years out there. You were, you were up there in, Boyle Heights.
Oh my God! No, I did get to meet. I met. Remember the
Baldwin
dad
Hills.
from Fresh Prince of Bel Air? The dad. I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
Yeah, he passed away
Yeah,
a couple
he
years
was
ago.
very
yeah.
lovely. I was able to actually also, let me see. We just go like, I would just hang out with friends. I had friends that were in the industry.
Dr.
Yeah,
Phil. No, Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil. Yeah, that was his
Yes, Uncle
character.
Phil. Uncle Phil. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I
And
saw him
then
on the. Let me tell you this. I saw him on the show where he made a connection back with his dead dog, and he was crying. It was such a strange thing. I'll never forget that. Yeah,
okay.
and he was so heartbroken and crying. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Pets
No,
will do
it was
that to you.
hard to be out there. It was hard to date. Like, I mean, there's so many beautiful people out there.
Were they airheads? I heard they were like airheads.
Yeah. Well, not all of them, but
They were beautiful, but they weren't very smart. That's what people told me that moved out there.
well, I can tell you this. My husband, he said he didn't miss. He was born and raised in Downey, which is a suburb of LA, and he said
Oh
he
yeah.
didn't ever miss leaving there. So when we moved to Virginia, but yeah, there was just like it was so expensive and just a lot of people. Like I
California
remember going to
different.
clubs and you had to dress a certain way to be selected to go in the clubs, and
Yeah.
oh Lord have mercy. Like
LA had a lot of that pretension. Yeah, a lot of pretension because for the most part, it's an industry town, and
Yeah.
I don't get it. I went like 10 years ago because my friend, one of my really good friends from college, lives there and works there. I didn't get it. I didn't really. I mean, I saw like desert and bleached out places, and
Well, I
I
mean,
saw old LA,
the
and
weather was nice, and there's always something to do. Like if you like hiking, like so, my husband he liked to hike. Our first date was to a Dodgers game. The second date was hiking, and I remember saying to him, I was like, "Black people, we don't hike." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "We got enough obstacles to overcome without hiking up a damn mountain. Like, you're not gonna find it." We used to like look for like there was never ever did we ever see another black person hiking. Like, yeah.
yeah,
Times
So,
have
but
changed. Yeah.
yes, times have changed. Well, there's so many beautiful things. Like I think we don't take advantage of it because maybe we just don't know. But I was like the hiking. You can go to the beach. I think it's very different now. The crime is that was the other thing too. That was really weird. We lived in Pasadena. There was oh my god, there
that's
was
where my friend
always
lives.
helicopter lights. There was always something going on. And when I moved to Fairfax County, it's we live. There's like 2 million people here, but it's not the crime is very low. And I'm going to tell you kind of it's a funny story, but it's not really a funny story.
Ghetto
So
black.
I told you I watch a lot of murders. I was home by myself. It was an off day, and my husband, he was a professor and he was at work, and my kids were
Very
at
true.
daycare. I can't
Very
remember
true.
what was going on, but
I'll be
I went to take the clothes from the basement upstairs to hang them up, and I heard a person say, "Hello?" And I thought, "Oh my God, somebody broke in my house." Now, the visual, I'm going to give you the visual. I ain't got no bra on. I ain't got no shoes on. I'm literally, it's raining outside. I just thought I need to get out of the house because I don't know who's in here. And I just ran down the stairs, straight out the front door to my neighbors. Now, most of the neighbors in my neighborhood, as myself, I was working part-time, were home. So I ran to my next door neighbor. She sees I look panicked. She has me come in. Oh my God, I think somebody's in my house. So she calls the neighbor across the way who has a gun. And she said, "Mary, I need you to get your gun. We need to go. Somebody's in Adriana's house." Mary's like, because everybody in Virginia seems to have guns.
very true.
She says, "Don't call the police. Don't, I'm not going in there with a gun."
Yeah.
So we call the police. The helicopter shows up. Canines, unclothed. Plain clothes, fully, all kind of officers. They're all come. Meanwhile, my husband, who did not tell me he was coming home early that day, had changed into his penguin pajamas. And he is hearing all this stuff outside, and he peers out. No, before the officers come and said, "Ma'am, when you left the house, did you lock the door?" I said, "No, I didn't lock the door. I just ran out of the house." He says, "There's definitely somebody in the house." So that my husband peeks out the blind, and they said with their bullhorn, "Come out with your hands up. We see you." So he comes out with these penguin pajamas on, and I can't tell you, the response time was amazing. All these cops.
Yeah.
And he's out there. He does everything they say. And we didn't joke about this. If he had been black, I don't know what would have happened. But because he's just there, and they
Wait a minute. Did he have penguins on his pajamas? I want to get a
yes,
visual
he
here.
had
Or was
on
he dressed
flannel
up as
penguin
okay?
pajamas with like a t-shirt, and he had changed clothes, and he comes out
Okay.
and he's like this, and they said, "Now get the homeowner," and he's like, "I am the homeowner," but then I come out, and then
Oh,
oh
that
my
threw
God,
off him.
my husband, and the cops are looking so confused. They're like. So anyway, the whole point of the story is Fairfax County has amazing police response time. I've never seen helicopters flying around. LA, it was a nightly occurrence, 2-3 times a night, and I never felt truly safe there. And we lived in Pasadena, which was a nicer part of the LA County.
Well, Fairfax is expensive too.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But it was as close to Shaker as I could get in terms of opportunities. They had a fantastic music program. My older son was a concert master for the highest level orchestra. Both my kids have played Carnegie Hall. One played the Sydney Opera House. They both are bilingual Spanish because they had an immersion program that started in kindergarten. So these are the kinds of things that you're looking for when you have kids. So made those sacrifices for them to have that. But
Foundational.
I did. I did. Yeah, it wasn't quite the shaker experience. Like we had better diversity.
Did you play an instrument at Lomond?
I played the cello. I think Mr. Tiniano knew because I was tall and gangly, because I wanted to play the flute, and like all my Marion and played the flute, and Lisa Stewart, they all had the cute little flute, and I couldn't make any noise come out. And he said, "Oh," and I remember I tried the violin, but I don't know if you guys remember Caleb Nelson.
Yeah.
Where is he?
His neck he was always like this. He would just slide the violin and start playing. And I thought his neck got like that because he was playing the violin for so long. So I didn't want to play the violin.
It was because of his vision. He could only see a certain way because
I did not know that. I thought it was because of the violin. So I picked the cello because I thought that was a safe instrument. And my mom, and the bass was too big. So I played the cello. Isn't
Caleb somewhere saving the world or solving cancer? He's doing something. He's got to be.
I think he's oh, you know what? He's an attorney, because my husband's best friend did a law clerk internship with Caleb, because my husband went to UC Berkeley's Bolt Law School. So he's a professor at UVA. Yeah, I knew he was doing something great like that, because
we've been trying to get our valedictorian on, Carolyn Minter, but she has not responded to our queries. Yes. And if she's like stealth listening out here, because a lot of people stealth listen to the show, whether on Spotify or they come back to YouTube. We wanted you, Caroline. We wanted you. We wanted to hear about your shaker experience. And the whole valedictorian, drama that is often whispered about in the palace. So anyway,
we almost had Lorna Wisham. We had.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I digress.
She got off the line. She had to be somewhere. I couldn't get her back. I tracked her at the reunion. I had her. And then just the day before she was supposed to be on, or a week.
Well, I love your show, so I feel very blessed that I was able to participate. And I'm looking at all these comments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm learning a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of comments way back from a gentleman I'm unfamiliar with, Mackie Samuels.
I've heard the name, but I don't know the person.
I want to make sure we had maybe addressed them. Concerted cultivation. But these were geared towards you, Adriana. And your parents not direct you to college. Okay, I think we might have covered all of them. The rest of it is, from our Shaker crew family. Shout out to Jeff Watkins, Luther Johnson, Billy Abshaw, all tuned in and everything.
So
and I'm sorry about more.
How do you see the world, Adriana, compared to how you saw it growing up? I used the metaphor of we started at the same base camp. We're meeting at the base camp 40 years later. How do you assess your trip around society or the world?
I'm always very thankful for my experiences growing up in a stable. When I was growing up, I always thought it was so cool when people would move. Like I was like, why am I still here? But the stability of being in the same place. I know my husband always thought it was great that I had friends from over 40, like Sheila Knight and I. We still talk, like we've been friends. Yeah. We were in kindergarten together. So so that having that stability kept me really grounded. Being in a place where we were exposed to religion other than Christianity was great. Having opportunities to experience the arts. I thought all high schools had planetariums. I was sadly mistaken. I feel like it's what drove me to want to have something similar for my kids, although it's a very different world. But I felt very prepared. I feel like I can easily navigate in and out of different social circles, no problem.
Like, I know you.
And
see you.
yeah, I mean, when you're in it, you don't appreciate it. And then when you look back and you're like, yeah, because that was a lot for many of our parents, the sacrifices they made for us to
real
be
talk.
able to be in
Talk.
Shaker, because
Yeah.
they didn't want us. They didn't want us. And, even going through school, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, there wasn't, the expectation level was muted for some of us, right? So it's like, you're only going to get to.
I remember being in class. I have to say this, and I wish we could have gotten Bruce Red on the show. I think he's in the D.C. area. At least that's the last I know he had relocated there. But he said something very bold and advanced and interesting, and I'm sure he had these talks with his parents. We had Mrs. Beavers, old, like she was at the end of her career, English teacher. I don't know if she was at Byron or Shaker, but there's two incidents. My sister would come from gym class, from swimming, and she would wear a hat because she was a black woman whose hair needed a little bit more care, and she didn't have time to do it. So Mrs. Beaver said, you better take that hat off. And she goes, no, I'm not taking it off. She goes, take that hat off. And she tried to snatch it off of my sister's head. She got smacked. I don't know what happened to her. I have to ask her.
Yeah, but, I had that teacher. She was terrible.
She was nuts.
Yeah, Mrs. Beavers,
but I remember Bruce Red saying, and I don't know how it came up, but he explained to Miss Beavers that black people had to know more about white people than white people cared to know about black people. And I was like, wow, I've been astounded that he was brave enough to say that to a teacher. And to this day, I would like to talk to him and ask him if he remembers that. I'll get him in Messenger, but I'll ask him if he remembers that. But he was on a higher level. He was observing things that I wasn't observing. I was worried about assimilating, just fitting in and just finding a clique that I'd be accepted in. But I'll never forget that. I will never forget that.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I remember like getting my education and then coming home and getting a different education from my parents in terms of like, I mean, many Black history that, was not taught. It still isn't really. I mean, now we're seeing like kind of like a, I actually just created a course that looks at, it's called Advancing Health Equity Through Nursing History and Theory. And it looks at, not only white women contributed to nursing. You've got men, you've got people of color, and it's like, we need to embrace that. But,
where are you? Are you at George Washington? Where are you teaching?
George Washington University.
Okay. And they're accepting to that? They're still open? They're not afraid of this?
Yeah, because we're private. So, and actually our new president, she's not new, but this is her second year. She is gay and married. And so, I think the environment is very welcoming. Although we do have our challenges. I mean, when the whole thing broke out in the Gaza Strip, like we have a very high percentage of Jewish students and Islamic students on both. So that was kind of challenging, but yeah. But anyway,
this is going to be a year, I tell you. This is going to be a year.
Yeah.
Woo.
But yeah, no, it was great. Great experiences. You guys, a lot of names from the past that I forgot about. Places.
Yeah. Well, this is random.
Our whole conversation's random. That's good.
Drop a memorable high school memory. Pick one.
My God, that's a good question.
Favorite?
I don't remember anything. Favorite high school memory.
Pivotal.
I can't pick just one. I don't really have, nothing's really jumping out at me. I just remember I enjoyed our games, our football games, even though we weren't that amazing.
Don't let Luther hear that.
I loved everyone that played on the teams, but yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think. I didn't go to our prom. I didn't
How come you didn't go to our prom?
because I was going out with a crazy person that like, oh, you can't go to the prom because I can't go with you. Okay. And I had gone to, I went to the class of 82's prom, which is really lovely, actually, at the Crawford Aviation Museum. Is that where we had our prom?
That's where all of them are, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that I would know, but
That
I've
was
heard
nice.
they are.
And we had graduation at front row, right? That was graduation.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Which is now the Home Depot.
Wow.
Oh.
Damn.
Oh, and that was unique because it was like everything was around. It was,
Yeah.
It was good.
I miss Randall Park Mall in its heyday. That was the place.
Yeah, I miss
merry-go-round.
Yeah, the Oak Tree. Spencer Gifts.
Yeah, Smoothie King.
Smoothie King, Orange Julius, the hot dog people jumping up and down with the lemonade.
Yeah. Hot dog on stick.
Chuck E. Cheese there too?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. What was the black, like, it was like Sam's Fashion Post, but they had one in Severance and they had one at Randall. It's called Gentleman's or somebody knows it. Luther, you got to know it. Somebody out there knows the name. Damn. I used to know the name.
And we had Michael Stern and Bally right up there by Master Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Pete Stern.
And then, oh my God, Amy Joy Donuts. I remember I was so excited about
Amy Joy. Yes.
Loved Amy Joy Donuts. I used to get 3 donuts every day after school.
Oh, man. They were the best. And they had the games in there.
Yeah, I loved Amy Joy. And then I remember it was a big deal when Wendy's wanted to be up where the old Bob's Big Boy. Well, that was like they didn't want any fast food in Shaker. That was so weird.
Then it had to be real Tiffany with the lamps.
Yeah, it was.
And then they finally just got rid of the old building, and they've got a new building now. Yeah. Gabe and I went there.
Yeah.
And then do you remember the bowling alley that was?
Yes, the bowling alley. Yes, yes.
How about Shaker Sub? Shaker Sub was right after.
Yeah. I remember when one of our earlier podcasts, it was Tony Peck. It was a couple of people, Tony Peck and Scott Griffin, reminiscing about Amy Joy Donuts and stuff. But I always, Tony was talking about like they would be hanging out up there, waiting for somebody to show up, and they'd be scrapping. And I found that to be fascinating. It was just like hanging out, waiting for somebody to come up. And for me, it was always about the food. Like, did you eat the donuts before fighting or after fighting? I mean,
that was the DMT.
Scott was in a lot of my classes. He used to always drive me nuts because he knew, like, I was one of these kind of OCD kind of people. So it's like, if you gave me a notebook and it said it had 100 pages, I took it. If you asked me for a piece of paper, I had to pull out the loose leaf paper to hand it because I needed to have 100 pages. And he would like doodle on my stuff and just make me so mad. He would turn around and just write something, and I'm just like, I was like, oh my God, Scott.
Did you take typing class at?
Yes, and when I started, it was a B, and when I finished, it was a D. I never progressed in the speed.
We made Mrs. Weiss cry because David Embry, when we'd have the time speed tests, he would loosen up the roll where your paper, so when I'd start, it would slide, and it would screw him up, then I'd screw him up, and then the teacher would just cry.
I remember her. Yeah,
we drove her nuts.
I took typing and business. They were teaching shorthand and typing because I didn't just take the straight typing class. But yeah, and then James Wilson was also in a lot of my honors classes. Yeah. Emily Obrock, Candace Giddings.
Do you remember Mr.
Danny Wyman? I think Danny Wyman was in a few of my classes, and Steve. Oh my God, what was Steve's name? I can see him. He was kind of stocky.
Steve Smith? No, he doesn't have blonde hair.
No. I don't remember his name.
Do you remember Mr. Franks, the science teacher, 7th grade?
I remember Mr. Franks, but I had Mr. Hoskins, and he used to wear these tight blue Levi's.
Oh yeah, he was sturdy.
I heard some stuff about him and younger students, female students. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, and I even heard
because he looked like Ken from Ken and Barbie, so I could see that.
Oh, Mr. Hoskins?
Yeah, didn't he? He had blonde
well,
hair.
Mr. Franks was
He was an old buddy. He looked like he walked out of the 50s. He was scary.
But there was also a Mr. Franks gym teacher at Lomond who was kind of I definitely think he had something weird. Like he had like a little special class for the girls to kind of come and do extra stuff on the horse and the ropes and stuff, but it was only girls.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you never it's so weird. You just don't ever. I don't know, but yeah.
Gotta watch out for the Boy Scouts and the altar boys. You gotta watch out.
Oh, I remember
breeding
there
grounds.
was a teacher, Ms. Ittner. She was flat out, I heard, not pleasant to students of color. I didn't have her. She was like the 5th grade teacher. But we had most of the teachers, like Miss Herverton. What the picture that she was my favorite teacher. The picture I was not in. And I think she's still alive. She's like in her 90s or something like that.
I found out my kindergarten teacher's still alive, and
really, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
She was known as Miss Alprin. Now she's known as Miss Brooks.
And then I remember Mr. McIntyre. I remember Mr. Woods. I was afraid of Mr. Woods.
Mr. Woods was cool.
Mr. Woods was scary. I remember one time he took somebody in the hall, and you just heard this, like he threw that person up against the locker because they were doing something they weren't supposed to be.
He was like a sergeant in Vietnam.
Yeah, he was scary.
He was a hired gun for the unruly black kids, I think. I know for sure.
Yes, he didn't play. He would just whoop.
Do you remember Kim Oliver? Mm-hmm. Mr. Woods told me that she liked me, and I was running out of class because I didn't know what to do with girls in 7th grade. And he made me stay after class. Lorna Wisham was her friend, and Monica Kendall.
Yeah.
Meet me at the playground at 1:45.
Average white band.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to Kim Oliver. She was a tennis player, and
she was.
She moved.
All the ladies liked Eric Green. Okay.
Please.
LL Cool J.
Yeah,
man. Nobody knew me. Someone asked me if I was gay. Steve Miller. And Steven, the guy that Drew, the one who was in your class that you were friends with, he hit on me. He sent me a Christmas card. I know, rest in peace. I know he's gone, but he thought it was gay because I didn't say anything. So, Not
there was a guy that I liked, and we kind of went out because I always kind of went out with the chubby guys. Greg Thompson, he went to Moreland, and his mom actually was our librarian. Betty Thompson was the librarian at the high school.
Okay,
she was very sweet lady. But I'm still trying to think about my high school memory, but I'm blanking.
That's okay.
Probably because I was trying to get out of there. I'm just like, a lot of people, I don't have negative feelings about high school.
Oh, what was your crush? Who was someone you wanted to date that you didn't date, that you crushed over? This is good.
I don't think I don't. I can tell you in elementary school, the guys that I thought were super cute.
Okay.
I thought Quentin was great, and our grandmothers were best friends. Miss Marie, his grandmother, lived in Miles Heights, which was kind of like off of Lee Road, and they were best friends. And I thought, oh, Quentin's cute.
Who did Quentin date? Because he was, he's a good-looking dude. Because I used to see him pop wheelies at Lomond on his bicycle, so I thought, man, he must have all the women.
Yeah, no,
He was
I
a
don't
grown.
know.
He was a little grown man. He was out there playing in the clubs. He
Yeah.
had no. He had no time for no little
Yes, he
girls.
did. He didn't have time. And I liked Luther. Luther was very funny. I liked
40 years later, Luther. 40 years later.
It all comes out, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
But Angie's like, don't talk to Luther. Angie was like, I go over visit. Don't talk to Luther. What? Why?
Oh, she was hating. She was scheming.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
Luther's still on. Oh shucks. Oh.
Ohio State, Luther, get ready.
So here we are, standing on the verge of 2025.
Yeah. Yep. So.
And we already got complaints of the flag flying half staff for Jimmy Carter.
Oh, yeah. If we could just get through these next 4 years, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had said this on a previous podcast. I felt like we couldn't have asked for almost like a picture perfect reunion that weekend. Weather,
Yeah, it was great.
everything else, and for me, in the back of my mind, it was like I was like really trying to like mentally record everything in the back, you know, because I'm like, yo, this is too perfect. This is too scary because this is too perfect. You know, so I'm like, gotta record all this. Gotta record all this.
I loved it. I thought it was perfect. The perfect amount of perfect places that we met. It was really nice to connect with everyone and see what everybody was doing.
Yeah,
That'd probably be the last one I go to. I don't want to. I've had a lot of loss in my life, and we had lost a lot of members when we were there.
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
So I think 40s. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, and I also think it's something of a different time period now, especially with technology and social media now and stuff like that. So it's a weird thing to think about, like, yeah, 50th reunion. I don't know. I mean, if it happens, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll definitely happen, but yeah.
I just might not be here though, so it's all good. All good. Take it one day at a time. There's other planets and galaxies to explore.
Well, are you gonna wear your Sunday best?
Oh yes, always. You know, I do have a gold metallic suit, but it's in the closet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyhow, well, here we are. 2 hours and 12 minutes. This was like a beautiful mixtape. It was a beautiful mixtape.
Talk about it.
Yes.
I had fun. I had fun.
You introvert, you.
Yes.
Okay, Billy, you better be there. I'll come at 50 if I'm still around.
So, for everybody who tuned in, and guess what? You've had the most consistent viewers for this podcast today. 8 people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, thank you.
Yes. Well, you know, light attracts the light.
Well, it's funny because I never thought anybody would remember me. So thank you for.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No.
That's right. That's why I had to wear my grills today. I don't wear my grills for anybody, just anybody, Adriana. It's Sunday. Yes. You know, with your mahogany self. Yes. Yeah, I gotta say.
Area, come visit me.
Yes. I promise. I just gotta say, I'm gonna add to your glow. Now, there was a moment. I think it was the first night at the reunion. We were standing on the driveway. You were all in your finery. I was like, look at mahogany right there. Just regal. So, yeah. Yes.
You have the greatest smile and the greatest eyes. And that's what rings out to me. And your personality. But, you know, before you talk, that's what... Very, very attractive, beautiful woman. And beautiful person.
And what's your sign again? You, what, Aquarius?
I'm Aquarius. How did you know? That's right. I told you my birthday. Yeah, I'm that quirky person.
forward thinking, looking way down the road. Aquarians. Yes. Well, everybody who tuned in, we appreciate you hanging out with us for a fun Sunday amidst the snow with Adriana Glenn, Eric Green, and myself here at the Shaker Heights, the Experiences May Vary podcast. We won't be on next week. We'll be back on the 19th. So we'll see you then. And everybody have a good, safe week. Stay hydrated. Stay aware. Stay awake, whatever, the whole nine. And until the next time, goodbye.
Go Ohio State, go Cavs.
Yes, Buckeyes and Cavs. That's right. And this is after Tony Peck. Your Steelers lost. That's 4 in a row. 4 in a row. What's up? 4 in a row, Tony. What's up? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Sit in agony, Tony, because I'm sending 13 brown elves to your crib. We're going to throw snowballs and rocks at your windows. Coming, Tony. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, everybody, who tuned in. Until next time, and we'll catch you later. Okay, how do I end this stream? Oh, here's the button. The mic is still hot.